Welcome to the Right to Survive podcast, your topographical map to the ever-changing literary landscape. Your hosts Celia, Dan, and Bridget are all struggling authors learning, writing, and most importantly, surviving in a world where a book deal may actually now be considered a cryptid. Stay tuned for news, interviews, and discussion on every facet of the writing life.
Alright guys, welcome back to the Right to Survive podcast. This is Dan, I'm here with Bridget.
Hey!
Sadly, Celia won't be able to make it this week. She had a flat tire on the way to Toledo, and so she is currently out of action, but she is with us in spirit.
And Celia, your thoughts and prayers.
And she has sent us some information on stuff she knows about, so she's still a part of this, even if you don't get to hear her beautiful voice. So, how's your week been, Bridget?
My week's been alright, hella busy. Just so busy. But I feel like I say that every single episode, so, because that's just my life.
Have you been able to get any writing done?
I sure have not, Dan. Again, what else is new?
Hey, that's fine.
What about you?
I've gotten a little bit done. I've got a bit more of a gun to my head than you do because I'm in an MFA program, of course.
Right.
But, yeah, I've been trying to get stuff done. I've got a schedule of how much I should write each week to get a novel done by the end of the semester, and I've been okay at that, but, it's difficult.
Yeah, especially when you have other assignments in class and all that, I'm sure.
Just as an update on the rejection contest, I've actually caught up to Celia now because I got a rejection from Buddy, a literary magazine that focuses on mental health. They rejected one of my nonfiction stories I submitted to them. So, it's kind of a thing where I kind of woke up, my phone went bleep, I woke up, saw it, and went, and moved on. And that's kind of what the end goal of always submitting is for.
Not being devastated every time you get rejected.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no rejections from me, but to my credit, I pretty much exclusively write longer form stuff, so I'm not always having lots of pieces to send out. Just perpetually working on a novel that who knows what'll ever happen with it.
Yeah, we'll see how I feel after I get my first publishing or agent rejection, see how upbeat I can be about that.
Right. Yeah, I feel like it might be a little easier to feel maybe less attached to short stories. I don't know, though. I don't like writing short stories, so maybe I just don't care about any of the ones I've written.
No, I imagine we'll do a good in-depth discussion on short stories and long stories and stuff. I've talked about them a little bit in the past, but I know it's a question that I think about. I know Celia and I have talked about it, and you and I have talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to stay on the topic of publishing while we're on it. Last episode, we discussed the way that fiction is changing, the way writing is changing. And we discussed Junot Diaz's speech asking for diverse bookshelves. And it turns out that Bridget was able to find an example of a book publisher who's actually putting its money where its mouth is when it comes to publishing.
Yeah, so how this came about was an author, I think. I don't know if this person is an author. Yeah, author. Okay, I found it. Camila Shamsi, author of Burnt Shadows and A God in Every Stone, which I have not read those, but maybe you have. She sort of put a challenge out to publishers a couple years back to take a year, to take 2018 and only publish women that year. No male writers in 2018. yeah, she basically just put out that challenge to publishers, and
she's British Pakistani, so
yes,
her main focus was UK publishers, but
yeah. And the only publisher in 2018 who has taken her up on that challenge is this small press in Oregon called Not a Pipe Publishing. I hadn't heard of them before, but they, I think they were founded in, I want to say 2013, so they're fairly recent. And yeah, they're stationed in Independence, Oregon, and they took her up on this challenge. And they're going to be publishing, I think, 9 books this year, and all by women. And yeah, and I thought that was interesting that no one else, I don't know if anyone else really responded to the challenge at all.
Yeah,
but
it says a few UK publishers did.
Okay.
I think that might be because the English publishing industry is a little bit different from America's, from what I can tell.
Sure.
I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't know.
But if you listen to a few other podcasts about publishing, or listen to interviews with English authors, like the Creative Pen podcast, which I'll never stop plugging, I think there's more of a cottage industry of publishers in Britain than there is in the United States, which indie publishing is only kind of recently a thing. But yeah, Not a Pipe, I think I might have actually heard of. One of my colleagues in the MFA program is from that area, and she's involved in the Northwest publishing scene. I think she's either been published by or worked with them.
Okay. It looks like actually one other publisher did accept her challenge, and Other Stories. They're a UK. I think they may be a UK press. I'm looking them up now. But I don't know if anything came of that because this is an old article. But yeah. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
What's interesting is, despite the name being a reference to, rather pretentious art, it publishes actually some really interesting work if you're looking into wanting to support this initiative. They've got a novel called Going Green, which is a sort of a fantasy novel where people become photosynthetic.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. That sounds like something Celia would be interested in.
Honestly, yeah. They've got one where they've got a fantasy novel.
A lot of, fantasy and sci-fi, it looks like. There's a superhero one, it looks like. And yeah, there's a couple of, obviously this publisher has not historically only published women, because apparently that's just too difficult for anyone to do. But they have a couple of male publishers that have stepped back and postponed their books that would have been published this year to make way for what they're calling the Year of Publishing Women.
And that's the thing, is it's Bridget made the mistake of going into the comment section, which on any
have you seen it, Dan? Have you seen it? It's so bad.
I am online enough to know not to do that.
Oh my god.
But the thing is, it's like they said, they're not stopping publishing men, and they're going to publish men. They published men in the past. They're going to publish men in 2019 and on. But what this is doing is it's letting, it seems with a lot of publishing, once your foot's in the door with a book, it's a lot easier to keep going on that, get a trajectory. So it's letting a lot of these women, I should say, from all over the country. They've got writers from Washington to Maryland, who, they're getting their first books in kind of wild ideas, dystopias, Irish folklore, epic fantasy, superhero stuff. These are things that obviously men write. I mean, I write a lot of that stuff, but it's easy for me to get published with that. Not easy, but comparatively,
right.
But they're publishing this, and they're not. It's an interesting look.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know a whole lot about this press, but, I assume that one of the reasons that maybe a lot of the other houses, maybe the bigger houses, are not stepping up to the plate on this kind of thing is that it's probably they would probably consider it a risk to only publish women for an entire year. Which, I mean, I obviously, like, women write plenty of amazing books and, like, they sell, and plenty of books by women get sold, but it's considered like a risk to publish someone who's not a straight white dude. But I wonder if it's more or less of a risk for a really small press like this to take this on.
Yeah.
Like, how much of a risk are they really taking?
Yeah. Well, it looks like the press it's mostly run by women. I mean, the co-publishers are husband and wife, but the rest of their staff is 2 women and a Roomba. So the Roomba's name is Rob, and he's the head janitor, according to the website.
I wish my company had a Roomba. It'd make the office so much better.
Automating out the jobs, I'm telling you, Bridget.
I know.
But if you just go to Not a Pipe Publishing, which there'll be links to and whatnot.
Their website's not bad.
Yeah, they got a website.
It's better than
email
them.
Support
them. Tell them that you're in support of this initiative that they're doing, because it's ballsy. It's good.
Yeah. And and pick up the books. That's the number one way.
Absolutely.
To
put your money into it.
That's the number one way to show support.
This is exactly what Junot Diaz and Roxanne Gay were talking about in those speeches that we talked about last episode. Is like, you got to put your money where your mouth is with this stuff. You got to actually put money into diverse publishing. And this press release says that points out that Not a Pipe's plans for 2019 is to focus on authors of color and from the LGBTQ community. So let's make sure that this works out for them so that they can continue doing this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's important. And the nice thing about independent bookstores is that independent publishers is, sometimes it's even though it's a little bit cheaper, sometimes you get a little bit more love. Mm-hmm. And you get a lot more author-built books, and they're just a great thing to keep going. And it's interesting, in the big news recently has been Barnes & Noble firing a bunch of people, and the big thing is if you're not buying books on Amazon anymore, for better or worse, your own independent bookstores, they're on the rise. I mean, they're becoming very, very popular.
People are fucking scared of Amazon is what's going on.
Yeah.
I'm terrified of them.
Yeah.
My favorite comments, I'm still scrolling through, but my favorite 2 comments that I've seen so far, I'm going to try not to read them too deeply because I'll get cancer instantly. But the first comment is, doesn't this violate civil rights laws that ban discrimination by race, sex, gender, country of origin, etc.? And I'm like, you're so boring.
I mean, here's the thing. They could have just only accepted women to be published this year.
Not made a thing of
anything
it.
About it. Mm-hmm. But, and there would be nothing wrong with
that. It's not like not accepting an author's book is discrimination. Like, does this guy really think every publisher is accepting 100% of the books that are pitched to them? Like, no, that would be stupid.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen. That doesn't make it discrimination. I mean, like, yes, it would be, I don't know, like, and no, it's just dumb. I was gonna try and play devil's advocate for a second. I was like, you know what? No, this is just stupid.
Yeah. No,
my other favorite is this one guy says, "I'm only going to sell books by white males." And I'm like, that's cool. Everyone's already doing that. So
really groundbreaking is what that is.
Yeah. Can you imagine how the press would treat a publisher who said they would only print books? Yeah, I can't imagine how that would feel. Like,
yeah, and as always with cases like this, you be vocal about these choices because the end goal is that you don't have to be. But the sad thing is we have to be right now. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes if there's not a sense of enforcement or a sense of equality in the publishing industry, you get what's been happening in the YA publishing industry recently.